Let's add our first location trigger. In our previous tutorial, we checked out how to make a FreshAiR Reality trigger, which can be very useful. You'll also populate a lot of your FreshAiR Reality with standard location triggers. Let's take a look how to do that now. To make a location trigger, you click on the Add Trigger button at the top left, designated by the blue marker with the green plus sign. Whenever you create a new trigger, it's simply added to the right of all your existing triggers on this screen, wherever that might be. Once you have many triggers, you'll notice that you'll need to scroll left and right. Also, you may notice this blue arrow here. Clicking it will actually reveal a list of all of your trigger types. This can be helpful simply for keeping track and keeping organized of all your different triggers once you have many built out in your reality. For now, we'll keep that closed. When making a location trigger, the first thing I always do is rename it, like I would with any other type of trigger. You'll notice by default, the first section, Triggered By, is actually defaulted to location, which is where we want it. What's important now is to actually fill in this secondary field, At. When you click this drop-down, this actually prompts you to select a location. These locations are the exact locations you'll find on the location screen. If you've populated other locations previously, they'll be in the drop-down for the trigger. So at this point, you can create more locations or just select a location you've previously defined. For this trigger, let's select one of those previously defined locations. Great. So we've told the trigger to show content to the user when the user walks within a certain radius of this location. But what's the radius? That's where this gear icon comes into play with some advanced options. When you click on it, you'll have a couple of different options to set here. You'll want to read through this logically like a sentence to comprehend what's going on. What I mean is, read it like this. The matches trigger is triggered by location at the matches location when within 23 feet. That means that when a user steps within 23 feet of this location, the content we're about to define in just a minute will pop up to the user. You could certainly go higher with this radius, but due to GPS drift and GPS fidelity, 23 feet is the minimum that we on the FreshAiR team can guarantee that your location will be successfully triggered by. Wide area radii can be useful depending on the narrative and type of content you're trying to present in your reality. You'll notice there's another feature here, whether this trigger is actually clickable from distance or not. This is important. If you uncheck this, the only way this content will be triggered is by having the user physically walk there. If you check this, they actually have the option to click on it from afar from their screen. Much like you could define the radius for walking toward a trigger, you could define the radius for how far away a user actually can click on it from. You can go pretty narrow with this scope. Or you can make it as wide as you wish. It's useful to have a very high clickable distance when you want your users to be able to click on this trigger from pretty much any location globally. When that's the desired effect, I typically just put all 9s in this text field. Once you're done, you close this box by clicking on the same gear icon. And of course, you're going to want to hit save. We'll come back to talking about clicking on a trigger or walking toward a trigger in just a moment. But first, now that we've defined that, let's define what content will pop up when this trigger is triggered. You do this by hovering over the content box and clicking on Pick Other. This will take you to your content screen where you can see all the content you've previously populated. You'll want to scroll up and down to choose which content you'd like, or click on Create New to create new content on the fly. Again, you can use these tabs to filter down what content you see to keep organized when you have lots of different content in your reality. But this is optional. When you've found the content you've wanted, you'll hover over it and hit Select. You'll then be taken automatically back to the trigger screen. Any options that you've populated for the content will be here as well. It's important to note you can hover over the content in your trigger and select Pick Other or Edit to change that in case you're not satisfied. Let's hit save. And again, this is a good stopping point for you to test out your reality on device. It'll be important to experiment with different permutations of having your content triggerable from a distance by clicking on it, of trying it out by walking up toward it by proximity and having it triggered in that way, and getting a feel for how the system works. One thing you'll notice right off the bat is we've color-coded the markers on your FreshAiR app. When a marker is clickable, when you're actually within enough distance to click on a marker, it will turn green. This means you can click on a marker in your FreshAiR app, whether you're in reality view or the map view. Otherwise, if you have to walk toward a marker to trigger it, the marker will be blue. In subsequent tutorials, we'll get a little more in depth with different options available for your trigger.